It certainly wasn't pretty in the series finale, but at the end of the day, the Giants went into hostile territory in San Diego with a raucous crowd, and they ended up splitting this 4-game series. And I think you'll take that every time. Tough road city 4-game series split. So we're going to break down the numbers out of the first 4 games, look at some individual performances and deficiencies, and also, hey, Joey Bart designated for assignment.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015. I've been hosting this show for over 5 years, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already. Please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever you can do to help us out is greatly appreciated. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And where we get started is by just basically summarizing the first series of the year for the Giants. Was it perfect? No. Was it awful? Definitely not. I mean, the last game, yes, awful for the most part. The pitching, that is definitely going to be an area we're going to focus on today's show, is the pitching and kind of how they started the year with only 12 pitchers, and and Blake Snell not in that rotation, and so having to lean on some guys, and then designating Joey Bart for assignment to bring up a guy who gives up 9 runs in 2 innings. So anyway, there's a whole lot to get into there, but what I'd like to do, I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy store every single morning when we get, up on Fangraphs, the statistical updates. And so I just kind of want to, it's obviously a small sample of 4 games, but I just kind of want to look at how did the Giants perform statistically. I was at 3 of the 4 games. I thankfully was not there yesterday, but I was listening to that game. It sounds like I didn't miss much, basically. But so I was there. I saw it. I get it. The game is played on the field. It's not just about numbers, blah, 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 blah. And what I saw just before I dive into the numbers is just a team that was a threat offensively, a team that certain player like Jung Hoo Lee really stood out to me, making a really good first impression with the bat. And even yesterday when the Giants got blown out, he kind of, I don't want to say corrected, but he started drawing walks, which was one thing he hadn't really done. But him hitting his first home run, it was against a left-handed pitcher, I believe, and then Michael Conforto hitting a grand slam against a left-handed pitcher. A little bit of a different managerial style under Bob Melvin. These guys are getting a chance to play. Well, Jung Hoo Lee, everyday player, you're not giving $113 million guaranteed to a player you're going to platoon. But with Conforto, maybe that's a spot where Gabe Kapler pinch hits for him, and they don't, and the Giants get rewarded with a grand slam after 2 swings and misses on the first 2 pitches by Conforto. So anyway, Logan Webb was great in this series. Kyle Harrison was really good, and Jordan Hicks was really good. And so if you add Blake Snell to that mix, this is what I said in the series prediction with Javier Reyes from Locked On Padres when he predicted, by the way, he said a near sweep or a sweep or almost a sweep by the Padres. And I said a split. And I said if the Giants had Snell, I would go maybe 3 out of 4 Giants. And I still feel that way, right? If it was Snell pitching one of those games instead of Daulton Jefferies, then I think you do have a good chance of winning 3 out of 4 ultimately. But that is neither here nor there. So just kind of let's just look at some individual performers for the Giants in this series. So their kind of best player turned out to be Michael Conforto, who hit 400, 471 on base, 933 slugging, 2 homers. He did strike out 30% of the time. Lamont Wade Jr.'s strikeout rate stands out to me here at 53.3%. So that's just, some people calculate strikeout rate like as strikeouts divided by at-bats, but it should really be strikeouts out of plate appearances. So when I'm citing strikeout rate and I'm saying 53.3%, what I mean is like literally he struck out more than half the time he's come to the plate. And so obviously that's going to come down, and it needs to come down. What's amazing is that he's actually otherwise been productive thanks to an 833 batting average on balls in play. So the stats get wonky when you are looking at small samples, but Patrick Bailey had a good series. He had a rough first game or two, but then kind of came around and ended up having a nice series. Matt Chapman, I just thought, the 2 home runs that he hit were huge in that win in the second game of the series, and just the defense. There was one ball, I don't know if they showed on TV. I had like a really good angle of it from where I was sitting, but it looked like it hit the cut of the grass, and so he made like one defensive miscue in that third game. But it looked like the ball hit the cut of the grass and like redirected, and that's what happened there. But just Chapman's, he's only struck out 11% of the time in 18 plate appearances. The isolated power is what stands out at 389. Only a 214 average on balls in play, but still able to hit 278 with 278 on base, no walks yet, 667 slugging. Again, we're living in the land of extremely small samples here, so this is kind of more just for fun, and probably it's more relevant to look at team statistics at this point because everybody's numbers are like small sample, but if you combine them all, it's less of a small sample, right? But how about Jung Hoo Lee? In his first series of his major league career, he walked 16% of the time and only struck out 10.5% of the time. So right away you're seeing league average strikeout rate is like over 20%. It's like 22. I don't know what it is so far this year, but it's typically 22.5-ish%. And so Jung Hoo Lee in his first series facing major league pitching, less than half of that is what he put up. And so he also hit 286, which is very, very respectable and immediately right in line with what those projections were that I talked a lot about in the offseason. He had a 368 on base and a 500 slugging. So those are just phenomenal numbers right away. And the expected numbers are even better with a 474 expected weighted on base average with just a 361 actual weighted on base average. He hit some balls hard is what that means that were caught. And I definitely saw that. Ha-Sung Kim made some nice plays on him on ground balls up the middle. He had a rocket to center field that was caught. But a good first weekend in the major leagues. Like all of you who were like, there was a lot of chatter about like AA, blah, blah, blah. What you're saying is like why people are saying that is that the KBO is roughly considered, I think it's kind of considered to be between AA and AAA in terms of the level of like how tough the competition is there. But at the same time, this guy absolutely dominated. So to say, he's a AA player. Yeah, okay. Well, he's a guy who like deserves to be promoted, but there is no promotion. He was at the highest level in the league he was playing. And plus, we've seen guys like Ha-Sung Kim come over and have the performance translate. So I was just very impressed with Jung Hoo Lee's first little taste of major league action. Leading off games, just really good eye, just laying off balls and showing some power. Hit his first home run against a lefty. It was a good weekend for Jung Hoo Lee. Lamont Wade, I already said, really weird, strikeout rate over 50%, yet somehow above average, because when he put the ball in play, it was a hit 83% of the time, which is just very much not a sustainable thing to do. So coming up in just a minute, we're going to continue looking at these numbers. We're going to look at the pitching numbers, which get a little bit weirder and worse. So, and discuss how they can kind of turn the tide there. But also, we're going to get into the news about the Giants designating Joey Bart for assignment. The writing has been on the wall for a long time, but we will break it down and explain why they did this and why they did it when they did it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by our good friends, yes, over at FanDuel. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet the tourney, MLB, NBA, NHL, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. And I've been telling you, like, if you haven't thought of the obvious already, what you can do is simply find the most heavy favorite you could possibly find. Place that $5 bet there. I mean, I just love that baseball is back, and so you can bet on baseball as well. It's harder to bet on baseball in terms of heavy favorites. Like, you're not going to find it as much as you might earlier in the college or in the NCAA tournament, etc. But yeah, I mean, the NBA, you're going to find heavy favorites. You place that $5 bet once you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. If that bet wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. So check it out. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by our good friends over at LinkedIn. That's right. Are you struggling to close deals? B2B selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. All right, here we go. I want to get more into the numbers. Like I said, land of small sample. We're going to take a step back and look at the team numbers, because when you combine it all, it's crazy how things do stabilize fast when you look at the big picture. Like if you look at league statistics, they look very normal, right? And it just takes a few days for that to happen. But when you look at the individual players who make it up, it's like you get this crazy wonky stuff, like I was saying with Lamont Wade. But yet the league numbers look like normal league numbers within just a few days. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, oh, yes, guess what? We're going to be breaking down Game 1 of a 3-game series in Los Angeles. Giants taking on the Dodgers with Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman. That's their top 3 in the lineup. My goodness, that is a scary top 3. That's why I said at least splitting in San Diego I thought was important, which they did. And now you've got a tall task, and we'll see if Blake Snell is able to go late in the series. That could change things. Also, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? I know I do. Make the switch, like I did, to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where, as you know, it's your team every day. So yes, more of the numbers, and eventually we'll turn to the pitching, which got weird, I think, especially towards the end, and even like the end of the third game, it got weird. Camilo Doval with some pitch clock violations, and yeah, so I was talking about some of the players at the top. Thairo Estrada had a decent series. I wouldn't say, like, nothing below average kind of offensively overall, but decent, I guess you would say. And Austin Slater, limited plate appearances. Wilmer Flores, kind of limited plate appearances. He did leave with an injury after falling into the Padres dugout and didn't really get any help from the Padres players. I did not see this play. I need to watch the replay of it, but I have heard that Mike Krukow was really mad that nobody in the Padres dugout went to help Wilmer Flores as he was flipping over the rail. So I agree with him. I have to watch it, though, before I can really comment on it. Mike Yastrzemski played one game and then went on paternity leave. But the one guy who really struggled was Jorge Soler. And once again, the expected numbers are much better. He hit one ball that I thought was for sure gone, but he hit it to the deepest part of the field out in left center. If he pulls that ball, it's way gone, but he hit it to the wrong part of the park. And so Soler, batting in the number 2 spot in the lineup, the numbers weren't great. He hit 133, 278 on base, 200 slugging, but again, small sample. So the team overall, they had a 108 weighted runs created plus in the first series of the year. They hit 265, 340 on base, 449 slugging. Those are all solid numbers against some good pitching. I mean, let's not forget, they faced Yu Darvish, they faced Joe Musgrove, and they faced Dylan Cease in these first 3 games. And then in the 4th game, Michael King, who was a big part of that Juan Soto trade. So Giants did well to split the series and in some of the games, they just were a force offensively. Notably, their strikeout rate only 22.3%. Early last year, that was way high. They were tops in the league, striking out the most. But right now, they're a little below the median. The league average, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, 23.1% so far, with the league hitting 253, 228, 328 on base, 408 slugging, 9% walk rate, just perfectly normal looking numbers. And, I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, defensively. I think that stuff can get a little strange in small samples. Base running wise, you did have Jung Hoo Lee getting picked off. Through, again, it's small sample. I would not read too much into this, but through 4 games, Giants have rated as one of the worst base running teams so far. And defensively, they, according to Fangraph's DEF defense, again, they're towards the bottom, but it's a very small sample. And what I saw, for some reason, there's a knock on Jung Hoo Lee in center. I didn't really see anything that stood out to me there in a negative way. Lamont Wade Jr. as well. There was a ball that he maybe should have caught out at the wall. They ended up getting it out on the play anyway. Yada, yada, yada. So I think that this is where it's too small of a sample to worry about at all. But pitching-wise, this is where we can turn our attention and look at, okay, the Giants, they split this series and they had a 6.35 ERA. And they also had a bunch of unearned runs in the game yesterday. So ERA is earned runs. And they had, so even worse than that when we're talking about unearned runs. So the Giants, they did not pitch particularly well in this series outside of their starters, really, and their first 3 starters. Logan Webb pitched really well. Kyle Harrison pitched well. Jordan Hicks, in his starting debut for the Giants, pitched well. He wasn't perfect, but they all pitched well. And then imagine adding Blake Snell to that mix. It's just a very different look than when you have to throw out Daulton Jefferies for his first appearance in a while in the major leagues. But so yes, when we click on kind of the individual performers, I mean, Jordan Hicks gave up no runs in 5 innings and struck out 10.8 batters per 9. I prefer strikeout percentage there. 30% strikeout rate for Hicks and just a 5% walk rate. So that's fantastic. This is a guy who struggled with command historically. So to see him be able to go 5 innings efficiently, not give up any runs, I mean, it's just fantastic. And then Kyle Harrison and Logan Webb also each had a 3 ERA, which means I think they each went 6 innings and allowed 2 runs. But so the starting pitching is going to be skewed if I were to sort by starting pitching, it's totally going to be skewed because of Daulton Jefferies' performance with an ERA of 22.5 versus Hicks, Webb, and Harrison 0, 3, and 3 respectively. So yeah, not a good start for Daulton Jefferies, but the other 3 were very good. And then you add in Blake Snell, and then like you add a 5th starter, kind of whoever's performing best, whether it's Keaton Wynn or all these young guys, Carson Wisenhunt, Mason Black, guys like that, Hayden Birdsong. I think they'll be in pretty good shape. Like the rotation could be a real strength, but it wasn't on Sunday. And then the bullpen, because they went short on pitching to start the year to kind of hide Joey Bart on the roster to try to maybe sneak him through waivers here by designating him for assignment once teams had already kind of set their rosters, because in order to claim him off waivers, teams would have to, immediately add him to that 40-man roster. But the bullpen performance, I mean, there's not that many guys who really stand out in a positive way. Landon Roop, actually, I mean, he is the only one who didn't give up any runs. Ryan Walker, only 1 run in 3 innings. But, Taylor Rogers, the peripheral number, I mean, we're talking 1 2/3 innings. So we're, again, living in the land of extremely small samples. Camilo Doval did not have a good first appearance at all. I mean, I could see it coming that there was going to be a pitch clock violation just by coming into the game. He just nonchalanted it right out of the bullpen. And I was like, dude, he's not going to have time to throw a warm-up pitch. And sure enough, he threw like 2 warm-up pitches and then got called for a pitch clock violation. And then he should have had 2 more, but he got 1 more where the clock ran out. But then one time he, like, seemingly to me pretended that he couldn't hear the pitch comm, and that could have been called again. And so so far, not so good for the bullpen, that it was already short-handed. But again, land of small samples. But I think they're going to have to make some moves there because they're already short-handed. And the guys who are filling in as kind of long guys like Kai-Wei Tang, really rough first major league appearance for Kai-Wei Tang yesterday. So anyway, we'll wrap up what we saw from the bullpen and then discuss the Joey Bart situation. And the fact that he was DFA'd and what it means, why they did it, and all of that momentarily and before we get into it. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And yes, that includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up on all the latest in the sports world, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you really should. trust me on this one. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, here we go. We're going to kind of wrap up our thoughts on the pitching and the bullpen and get into the Joey Bart situation, because like there's a reason I'm saving the Joey Bart situation for last, because the writing has been on the wall here for like 2 years. Okay. And so eventually this was destined to happen, especially once Patrick Bailey came up and established himself as the clear favorite starting catcher over Joey Bart, and then they signed another catcher in the offseason to a multi-year deal. And so the writing was on the wall that something was going to have to give with Joey Bart. Teams understand the Giants' position, which is that, you know they can't keep Joey Bart because they can't option him. And so, look, they DFA'd Bart, but they still could get something for him if some team wants to jump the waiver wire. If they want him, and they assume other teams could put a claim on him, and that if they want to jump that waiver wire and not kind of risk not getting him, the Giants could still make a trade here, even though they DFA'd him. So we'll explain that in just a minute. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, yes, we'll be breaking down Game 1 in Los Angeles. Keaton Winn on the mound for the Giants. Another, kind of we don't know exactly what we're going to get type of pitcher, given that he's not very experienced, but he does have a really good fastball splitter combination. James Paxton, I think, making his Dodgers debut, left-handed pitcher. Giants have some good right-handed hitters. Maybe Jorge Soler gets going. Matt Chapman can keep it going. Kind of blanking Nick Ahmed. I mean, he's not really known for his bat. Tyro Estrada, perhaps he can get it going. And then Austin Slater and maybe Luis Matos also gets that look there if he's not sent down when Mike Yastrzemski comes off paternity leave. Maybe they'll wait one more day for that with a lefty starting tonight for the Dodgers. So we'll be breaking that one down tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Walker, I said when in the last episode that I would have gone to Walker instead of Luke Jackson, who ended up needing to go on the injured list. And to replace Luke Jackson, they called up Kai-Wei Tang, who was making his major league debut. He made that debut yesterday, and it didn't go so great. He walked a lot of batters. He threw like 40 pitches in his first inning or something like that. I was just listening, so it was kind of hard to keep track. It was also like pouring rain, and I had to make a stop, and oh my goodness, my socks got soaking wet. Never mind. That is neither here nor there. Tyler Fitzgerald had to pitch an inning out of the bullpen. That's a position player who made an error to start yesterday's game. Yesterday was just a throwaway game. Just forget about it. Move on. Eric Miller, good first inning in the opening day game, but then a good second inning in the third game of the series. But then I did not love having him come out again for a second inning. I get it. The score was 9-1, but I don't know. I mean, he gave up a bunch of hits, bunch of walks, and the inning, it got way too interesting for what was a 9-1 game entering that inning. But they're also short in the pen, so I think they need to cut that out and add some arms. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you see a move or two made to kind of get some fresh arms here for this Dodgers series, given how hard they had to work in this finale, and given the fact that they were already short with only 12 pitchers, and given the fact that one of those 12 pitchers, Blake Snell, hasn't even been able to pitch. And so they're really short, and I think that it kind of came back to haunt them in this final game. But otherwise, they were able to kind of weather the storm thanks to the offense, which has scored on average over 6 runs a game, I think, so far. So anyway, the bullpen as a whole, it's been a little bit shaky, but I still believe, Taylor Rogers, Ryan Walker, Landon Roop has been impressive, and that's a good sign. Camilo Doval will be fine. He'll be Camilo Doval. And Tyler Rogers should be fine as well, but it hasn't been a great first 1 1/3 innings for him either. So anyway, getting finally to the Joey Bart situation. So like I said, the writing's been on the wall for a while, at the very least since Patrick Bailey established himself as the clear, priority, like the clear, he leapfrogged Bart on the depth chart, and then I guess you could have had Joey Bart as the second catcher, but I think even then they didn't believe in him enough to stick with that, because they could have just kept him, but instead they went out and signed a backup catcher in Tom Murphy, who, by the way, had a nice game when he did appear, and he might be in there again with the lefty Paxton on the mound. You can't just start Bailey every single day, and Murphy just crushes left-handed pitching. So Joey Bart has played exactly 162 games in his major league career. Strikeout rate is 35.4%, which, like I said, the league average is like 22, 23%. So strikeouts have been a problem. Chasing has been a problem. Hasn't hit for a lot of power. And overall has been about 22% below average offensively. I think, there's going to be interest. And so I'm very interested to see, are they not able to find a trade partner, and does a team just claim him? Does he go unclaimed? I kind of doubt he goes unclaimed, given that he was recently considered a top prospect and is still young. He's 27. I mean, he's not that young anymore. He's 27 years old. The one thing is, like, if you're a team that's putting in a claim, he is out of options for everybody. So whoever claims him, if they claim him or trade for him, the rule is he has to be on the major league roster. That's the beauty. That's like, it's a good thing, because you can't just bury a guy in the minor leagues for eternity. Like, once they burn through their minor league option years, then that's it. And they have to be in the majors, or what could happen, you can be outrighted once, which means if he clears waivers, if no team claims him, which again, I doubt that happens, then the Giants can send him to the minors without his consent. That can only happen once. So say they do that and then they call him up again. Say some catcher gets hurt, like Murphy or Bailey, heaven forbid. And then if they were to DFA him again, and if he were to clear waivers again, they can't just send him to the minors. He would be able to elect free agency at that point. But the fact that nobody would have claimed him, he'd probably end up getting a minor league deal somewhere, right? Because the whole point was nobody claimed him, wanting him in the major leagues on their major league roster, because there's a lack of flexibility there, given that he doesn't have any minor league options. So that's the situation with Bart, and we will find out soon enough how it gets resolved. I would hope that they would be able to get someone to bite on giving up something. And I wish him the best. It's just, if he clears waivers and they outright him, that kind of stinks for Joey Bart. But I would imagine he ends up on another team and gets an opportunity. So that's what he needs and deserves at this point. But I'm also not super optimistic. I haven't been for a long time about his chances of ever reaching that potential that people thought that he might have. Maybe he's a decent, second catcher who can hit a home run every now and then, but I don't think there's much more than that there, but we'll find out. And anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow, like I said, Giants Dodgers. What more do you need to know? That's what we'll be breaking down tomorrow. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. Cannot wait to be with you again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Giants, Dodgers, going to be crazy. So thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.